English will be right here for the presentation, and then French will be right over there. Let's go ahead and begin. Thank you everyone for being here at Designing Your Brand. Let's go and introduce ourselves. So my name's Anish. I work as the Director of Strategic Partnerships in North America, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague here.
Hey, hi. Oh, wow. My name is Ray. I go by Ray Paulo Online, and I'm Community Marketing Manager at Twitch, and I also manage and run all of the creator content for the community.
Cool. Did everyone have lunch? Did you get a chance to grab some food?
No.
No? Oh. Okay, all right. Well,
wrong question to start with.
Okay, well, let's try to keep this high energy. We're here to make sure we educate you all, but you have as much fun as possible. If you walk away from today's 1 hour session and do not have fun, you can blame Ray. Okay?
Okay.
We'll talk right in. So, before we start, what is an actual brand? Now, obviously, the slide is up here, but we'll take Q&A at the end. There'll be 2 mics. So if you have any questions, hold them until there. But just go and shout out. What do you think about when you think of brand? What comes to mind? Yeah?
Like an insignia or symbol, kind of like artwork that resembles something makes you think immediately.
Okay, so like an insignia or symbol, something like visual representative. Okay, yeah?
The kind of content that sets you apart from everybody else.
I love it. Okay, the type of content that sets you apart from everyone else. Okay, cool. Sounds like everyone agrees. That's the definition of a brand. All right, awesome.
That is exactly what a brand is.
Yeah, that is literally a brand. I mean, it's something that when you think about it, when you see it, you know exactly what it is representative of. Some of the most iconic brands in the world, even if you think about outside of Twitch, Coca-Cola, right? McDonald's, a lot of these are just known, well, yeah, Coca-Cola can, there you go, yeah. Known so well, right, throughout the world. And obviously a lot of these brands have been around for many years, but even as you think about your community, your channel, your brand, who you are, that's something that's going to help set you apart, as mentioned, a visual representative of your channel in terms of like your emotes or things like that. But ultimately, especially if you look at the slide here, there's 3 layers that I want to focus on throughout the presentation. Your brand encompasses who you are, what you actually create on Twitch, and how you express yourself, right? How are you ultimately showing and conveying who you are, not just to your community, but even new members that come in and want to get to know you and understand what you're about. So quick run through the agenda here. We're going to dive into those exact 3 topics: who you are, what you create, how you can express your brand, and then we're going to talk near the end of presenting your brand to businesses. While you're not going to necessarily walk away with a complete 360 of here's a full-on one-pager of how I can present myself to brands, nonetheless, it will help get you into the right mindset of how do I convey myself to my viewers, to my fans, to my community, and how does that translate appropriately to businesses that I might want to pitch on to work with. So, let's go ahead and do it. I love this gift, by the way. It's an awesome one. Your persona is what makes you different from everyone else on Twitch. So, you know, we're all, I imagine most, if not all of you, are streamers on the platform. You're all also fans or viewers. There's probably a lot of streamers that you aspire to look up to as well on the platform. And I think a big thing to bear in mind here is that every single streamer is different, right? You all may play a specific type of game or do type of content that's similar to others on the platform, but ultimately you are unique. Right? There's no one else in this world that's you. You are your own brand, and what you're doing on Twitch is in itself going to put you a bit in a different realm compared to everyone else. Ray, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, so what you just said is the brand isn't like specifically set to what you can see. It's also how you engage with people. It's how you decide to engage with content that you're working. So I tell folks all the time, I used the example earlier. So yeah, you can play Minecraft, but if people know you for a specific way of how you play Minecraft, that is also a part of your brand.
Cool. So we know audiences on Twitch are looking for certain characteristics. Here's some to consider as you think about your own brand. And I like this one because it breaks it out on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. We'll run through them real quick here. Entertaining versus informative, edgy versus family friendly, interactive versus focused on specific gaming, vertical, or content itself, hardcore, casual, and then of course off the wall versus chill. These are different types of opposite ends of the spectrum, if you will, to think about in terms of where exactly does your content fall under and who you are as a brand itself. You'll find that regardless of the content that you're doing, it may more or less stay pretty consistent. Obviously, certain types of games you might be interested in, or the interest itself, are going to vary a bit, but you'll fall on certain ends of the spectrum, and you almost never will be on one end completely. You might find yourself on more in the middle, or more skewed left or right here. These are great ways to think about characteristics, and to be clear, these are not all the characteristics out there, but it's a great way to think about when you think about your brand in terms of where you fall on that spectrum and what are the two ends of that spectrum. So if we dive in, these are some pretty well-known streamers, regardless of the region or country you may reside in, that are pretty well-known globally, I would say. So when you think about, and all the names are listed right on the bottom left here, the Shroud, Pokey, Hassan, Cup Noodle. So I want to play a little game here that I like to call, actually, if any of you grew up with Pokemon, do you remember between the ads there'd be, "Who's that Pokemon?"
I think they know. I got it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly. All right. You know, it's not everyone's on Twitch. That's what it is. Not everyone's on Twitch. So we're gonna play Who's That Streamer here real quick because we're trying to make this interactive. And again, if you don't like this, blame Ray. This is all his idea. So when you think about any of these four streamers, they're a bit more informative. They skew a bit more family friendly. They're very content focused instead of being interactive. Skewing more hardcore, and then also chill vibes. What do you think? Go ahead and shout out.
Shroud.
Where's that?
Shroud.
Shroud? We don't have any presents to give out, but you get a high five at the end. Come to me, I'll give you a high five. Yeah.
He will. He will make sure he gets that high five.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you two. But this is Shroud. And really, the idea here is to give you an example, and you got it perfectly, which is awesome. But this feeds into your brand, right? Again, this is a great example where, even for hardcore, I don't think Shroud is necessarily all the way on that end of the spectrum. He skews very heavily there. But it gives you a better idea of, as you think about yourself, as you think about what is your brand, what are those characteristics that make up your brand, it's going to help you better be able to define them out. This next one here, Cup Noodle. I actually had never seen Cup Noodle live until I put this presentation together, but this is another way to look at it for those of you who may be familiar with her. She's more entertaining. She falls kind of in the middle of family friendly and edgy. She's also more interactive, not as hardcore as Shroud in terms of the gameplay or the content that's shown on stream, but still on that end. And then more in the middle between chill and off the wall. And a lot of what you might think about is that, again, going back to the earlier point of you might have your brand in itself, but depending on the content that you do, you're not always going to skew in one direction or the other. You might actually fall a little bit in both. The kind of content that Cup Noodle does, it is pretty much in the middle, where some stuff is more chill, some stuff might be more off the wall, but on average, just kind of right there in the middle. And then we have Hassan. Hassan is kind of in the middle for informative and entertaining. In my opinion, kind of a perfect combination of both. A lot of the content, if not every single day, what he's doing is pretty informative, but it's also entertaining to tune in live and watch. He's a bit more on the edgy side, of course, and very interactive. Almost everything he does is very interactive there. It tends to be a bit more casual. You're not seeing Hassan play like FPS games on a regular basis or anything that is more competitive or hardcore in that way. And it does tend to be a bit off the wall, especially with the kind of conversations that may be evoked with the community, as well as the content topics that come up. And last but definitely not least, Pokey. Everyone probably has seen and or heard of Pokey. Break it down here. Very entertaining, definitely more skewing on the family-friendly side. Pretty interactive as well, a bit more casual, especially with the content she's done over the past year, whether it's Among Us, Fortnite, etc. And also a bit more on the chill side as well. And since I've been talking quite a bit, I want to make sure that you get a chance for any of these 4 streamers, if you have any feedback in terms of the characteristics that we're working on.
Well, I mean, and not even just, it's not even feedback, it's just more, when I see each of those folks, I know what type of content I associate them with. You know, because I see Cup, and I know Cup plays scary games, but also has really fun conversations. I see Hassan, and I'm like, Hassan has really informative current event conversations. I see Pokey, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I go and, you know, hang out and chill and expect to have a few laughs. I see Shroud when I want to go. When I see Shroud, I think it's somebody who makes me feel bad about being bad at video games. Because he's fantastic at video games. So, yeah. Brandon.
Awesome. Cool. We're going to talk about describing your persona. A couple kind of do's, a couple don'ts. Keep it short. Think of it almost like an elevator pitch, right? I think this is one of the timeless examples that's been brought up from a sales perspective of, hey, imagine you're on an elevator, right? And some very important person that you're trying to impress, could be an executive, maybe if you work at a corporation, could just be someone that you're a huge fan of. What is the best way that you pitch yourself in 30 seconds or less? Right? The average human attention span is pretty short, so what's a quick way that you can get them and have them understand who you are, what is your content about, why should someone even kind of tune in to watch you? And this also feeds into one of our products, some of you may be using, called channel trailers, which is also a great way to put, you can make it a little bit more than 30 seconds, but if you think about it kind of 30 seconds or less, so if someone comes to your channel, you're not live, but the channel trailer plays automatically so they can be told exactly who you are, what you're doing, what you're about.
True. Anish, would you like to give them an example of an elevator pitch of yourself?
Okay, putting me on the spot, yeah, sure. As someone who doesn't create content, but are you talking about as?
As a professional.
Oh, as a professional. As a professional. Okay, great, yeah, I was not prepared for this, but let's do it. Okay, awesome. I gotta practice what I preach here. Keep it short, keep it simple.
That's right.
And focus on a few things as well. Okay. Hey, how you doing? My name is Anish. I have worked at Twitch for about 5 years. I love being able to work with content creators and help make sure that their dreams are achieved as much as possible. I manage a team of strategic partner managers who work with content creators on a one-to-one basis to help them grow on the platform. So you don't have to I cannot wait to put you on the spot, Ray, in like 5 slides. You be warned, be warned. We focused on the do's. We're going to switch over to focusing on the don'ts. Don't pigeonhole yourself, right? Keep the focus intrinsic on personality, not just specifically on maybe the type of like content that you create or games that you play, right? Your pitch or your brand shouldn't just be, oh yes, I love RPG games, period. You're pigeonholed. No one will think about you as anyone outside of just an RPG player at that point. And last but definitely not least, don't obsess. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I literally just got put on the spot here. You're probably going to find that your brand, while at its core, it's going to stay consistent, over time it's going to change and adapt. Right? The kind of games, for those of you that might be gamers on streams, the kind of games you're playing today are going to be pretty different than a year or 2 years from now. Right? I know for me personally, Diablo 4 just came out like 2-3 weeks ago. I love Diablo. I've been a huge fan since I was a kid. So I'm playing that nonstop. Now, in a year or two, am I still going to be playing Diablo 4? Maybe a little, maybe not. It's going to continue to evolve, just as you're going to continue to evolve, but you're going to find that the core elements and characteristics of your brand, those are going to stay consistent. So, what do you actually create on brand content? There's a lot of options. A lot of options that will continue to evolve and change over time. Obviously, there's gaming. Non-gaming has exploded over the past 3 to 5 years on Twitch. You've probably been seeing a lot more content, and not just chatting, but even like music. Even I've seen a lot more streams of like cooking and baking, and a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of options out there that you can ultimately pick from, and not just from the perspective of what you would love to do, but even what does your community love to watch you do as well. Mixing up your categories, it's a huge benefit, right? When you think about these different categories, some of them, with Diablo 2 Resurrected, that came out a year or two ago, but it's really going to help define your brand in itself. If you look at, on the left-hand side, this type of creator probably is a bit more into horror-type games, right? You have a bit more of a darker element there, but then also they're mixing it up, they're playing a bit more lighter, casual. Sims, Minecraft, Among Us. So the ultimate idea here, going back to a few slides ago of not pigeonholing yourself, is to be broad out there. And I also want to emphasize the idea of experiment. Test, test, test. Try out new things, right? You may love to play certain games, but you're a little worried about playing them on stream because you're not sure if your audience would actually enjoy watching you do that, or if it'll actually resonate with them. But test it out. Nothing's stopping you from doing it, and if you expectation set and be proactive, hey everyone, this Friday, I'm gonna try something new. I'm actually gonna try a horror game. I know we never play horror games, but I wanna try it out and see how it goes. Please come in, give me your feedback. We'd love to hear from you all. If you like it, if you don't like it, come make it fun, right? Ray?
I mean, that is very true because as a personal story, I enjoy a variety of video games, but I knew what video games my community was more likely to watch me play. But there's a little game that came out called Mario Maker that I really, really wanted to try, but it wasn't something that I normally played. And so I just kind of put it out there one day. I said, hey, thinking about trying this. Never really played something like this on stream before, but I feel like it could be fun. And that's really kind of the key indicator. So I like to have fun when I'm streaming, and so when I was like, all right, let's try out Mario Maker, I first set the expectation. I told them, I was like, I want to try this. I wasn't going into it with the expectation of, this is the thing that's going to build my audience. We're going to get into this category and just completely, no. It was more, I saw this game that I wanted to try, and I told them about it, and we tried it, and luckily they love to watch me fail. So it turned out to be a good thing that I tried. And so I ended up incorporating it into my routine, which we'll get into. So I started all of my streams with, we just chat for a bit, and then we jump into Mario Maker. And then I get into my usual stuff, which at the time was like Map Together Arena, which helped create a variety in my audience as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love to kind of pitch the idea that there is no concept of failing, right? I think if anything, if something doesn't work out in the way that you define success when you try something new, all it is a learning, and it's going to help you better understand, okay, this is maybe not something that fits into my brand, or it doesn't resonate with my community, and that's a learning aspect. You can try it again later, maybe it wasn't the right time, maybe it just wasn't the right kind of content. But ultimately, it's learnings at the end of the day as you continue to build out and further define more crystal clear, who are you, what is your brand, why should someone tune in to watch you live, and also what should they expect when they tune in and watch you live. One way to stay connected and consistent is through content planning, or basically building a routine. Something that we have found has worked well for streamers across the board is just being consistent. Right? Plan out the content that you're going to do, whether it's on a weekly, monthly cadence, whatever it might be, and be consistent with it as well. When we think about consistency, if you were to stream different days every single week, it's kind of all across the board. Folks, not only do they not know what to expect when they tune in to watch you, but then they're not really going to know what day you're going live, short of you telling them on Twitter or Discord right before you do it. Having consistent days is also going to help, and it's going to further solidify your brand and what your community can expect from you. So let's break out the content plan. These are 3 different types of content that we define out. You can obviously call these whatever you want, but to make it a little easier, you can think of it almost as 3 R's. You have rise, you have reset, you have regular. So in this pie chart, what you see is 50% of the, let's say, hours broadcast or the stream time is dedicated to regular content. What you're mainly known for, right? If a community member or someone tunes into your channel, they kind of more or less know what to expect. In this case, let's say half the time, or 50% of that time they stream. And then you have a little bit, a bigger portion, more like a third of it, of reset. Sustainable content for when you need to recharge. Just chatting is an amazing category for this. You've probably seen a lot of creators do this. You yourself might do this as well, where in between, let's say you're playing 2 different games in a day, in between, it's a chance to reset. Right? Switch over to just chatting after you've quit that game, have casual conversations with your community, connect with them. Doesn't have to even necessarily be in between 2 different games. It could be that you start off the morning with a nice coffee chat, kind of casual fireside chat, if you will, with your community. Give them that intimate one-on-one time, bring them in, right? Almost even a little Q&A before you jump in. And that's a reset for you too, as well, as you're easing into creating content for that day. And then a smaller part of the pie is called rise content. Experimental content to attract new viewers. I gave the example earlier of trying out a horror game. Maybe you don't do that on stream, or your community doesn't necessarily know you for that. But it's a good chance to just take a little part of the total hours you might broadcast in a month and try something new and see how well it works with your community, and also ask them for feedback as well. So here's examples of that. And I've already kind of defined the knots. I won't go through them again, but just to give you an idea, if this was an example streamer and what the Rise content could be for them as far as new games or upcoming collaborations. Cool. So let's dig in here at an actual example where someone has a full-on stream here. Regular content they're known for, League of Legends. In between, maybe a 2-3 hour broadcast each of League of Legends. They switch over to just chatting, just like I mentioned, kind of a break, a chance to not focus on a game, but focus more on the community or on themselves, right? And then towards the end, they pivot from League to something new. In this case, Nickelodeon All-Stars. It's not really a complete opposite of League of Legends, right? League of Legends is going to be more hardcore, more competitive. I don't think anyone here is competitive with Nickelodeon All-Stars, but come talk to me afterwards if you are. Right?
No offense.
Yeah. But a good chance to test it out. And again, something that I think is really important is being just proactive and transparent with your community. Hey, I know we just finished League. I'm gonna try out this new game. It's really cool. I know you all may not expect this of me, but let's play it together. Let's test it out. See how it goes. Cool. Guest star, y'all probably heard of this product. If by chance you've not, really great way to take just chatting to another level and really be able to interact and bring your community in. This could be members who tune into your channel, non-streamers, all the way to actual streamers on the platform. Just chatting, it's a great way to leverage guest star and have, you've seen people probably do like podcasts or like have casual conversations with people, but you can also do guest star and combine it with like a game as well, which is really cool. It allows you to create new types of content, and it might be complementary to what you're doing, or it could be a great way to leverage Rise content and try something new. And I also want to acknowledge that it's not a product for everyone. You know your community better than any of us, and so it's a great way to experiment and test out. And you might find this actually works out really well for you. And that's great. Or you might find it's not the best tool for you and the kind of content that you do. That's okay too. Again, we don't want any of you to get static and plateau. Keep trying out new things. It's all learnings, and it's only going to be additional info that's going to help you as you build out your content plan in the future and solidify your brand. Cool. The third one, how you can express your brand itself. You all, I would imagine, are really good at this, but I want to give you some additional tools to be able to do that. 4 different ways to think about your brand itself: on your channel, in your stream, in chat, and off Twitch. A couple folks mentioned something visual, representative. It was also mentioned who you are, on the platform. But you also want to think about it off platform too, because your brand is not just when you're live or what people see on Twitch. You're building out your brand across various social media channels, various types of engagement and interaction, in person, in stream, who you are in chat, not even just your chat, but even other folks' chat, right? When they see you dropping into another streamer's chat, and let's say you're saying some funny things, people will click your name, try to find out who are you, what do you do? So it's a great way to think about holistically, what is the best way to represent your brand across every single type of vertical. So let's dig into those. Branding your channel. I called out channel trailer earlier, great way to have a 30-second pitch. A lot of people will actually take past content that they've done and spice it up. You all probably will take your VODs, you'll take bits and pieces and upload them onto YouTube. It could be a whole VOD, it could be more highlights. It's a great way to get people to know who you are and what to expect. Almost like a little sneak preview of what to expect. Like if we take like the Pokemon example or any kind of TV show, I remember a lot of times towards the end of the show, they'll do little sneak peeks of what's to come next week. That's a great way if you work backwards to see, okay, well, how do I give people a sneak peek of what they can expect if they do tune in general? Channel trailer is a great way to do that. Profile picture, again, visual representation is a very great call out of, I see a lot of people will have a consistent profile picture across every social media, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, etc. And you can do that. We're also going to see an example later where that is not done, and it's on purpose. Again, it's representative of your brand and that respective platform that you are showing yourself and what resonates with them there. The About and the Channel panels, again, additional ways to visually and even in writing represent who you are. Choosing a profile picture. Some of these may look familiar, some of them maybe you have never seen before. Again, various streamers on the platform itself. It's a great way to express out your brand. You'll see some creators will use actual kind of headshots or photos of themselves. Some creators choose to stick with more of the icon or the actual kind of conventional brand design, if you will, that people will know and associate them with. So you use your face, an avatar, a logo, whatever ultimately you decide is best for you. A lot of you may have already been doing this, but it is also a good chance to expand past, maybe instead of just your profile picture, you might want to have a dedicated creative brand with an artist that you yourself do or contract out to create something that ultimately represents you. The About section, here's a couple of great tips for this. You can focus on who you are, what you do, or what your community is like. Don't try to do all three. I mean, if you can come up with a quick and easy way to do it, go for it, but don't feel like, actually I shouldn't even say don't feel like, don't make this a paragraph. A lot of the About sections, they can be longer, and I think that's okay, but again, the average human being has a pretty short attention span if they're browsing through different channels. Make it quick and easy, something that maybe even complements your elevator pitch. So these are three different areas you can focus on, and just because we're saying focus on one of these three doesn't mean you need to do any of these three. You can figure out your own one. It could be a bunch of inside jokes. You put 2 sentences of jokes that your community knows. That's going to work well for you. That's awesome. Yeah. Channel panels. Great way to keep your brand, again, pretty consistent here. And what you're going to notice is if you take deer, for example, the face is being used to be either your avatar or actual face, which I think is great and it's consistent. And if you look over on the other side, you're going to see kind of the Spider-Man profile picture, but that may not stay consistent across the board. And that's fine. Again, your brand is not restricted to just one specific logo. It can be a variety of logos, obviously contained, so there's not a lot. But ultimately, everyone will be able to associate you with that respective logo across the board. We've talked about channel trailers. I won't spend too much time here because I think you all have heard enough about it. But again, a great way to engage and let anyone who comes to your channel when you're not live get a good 30-second, give or take, snapshot of who you are. Why should they follow you? Why should they come back and watch you live? Maybe they ended up on your channel page when you weren't live, and that's okay, but this will give them a reason to come back and want more. Branded stream scenes. This one's a really good one. People have done this for many years, but this could be something where as you go live and you're getting ready, but you want to put up kind of a placeholder image or an animated image, you can do that. You can do it in between breaks. As you take a quick bio break or get some food, whatever it might be. Again, the key here is not just having a simple scene as a placeholder, but stick with your brand and your logos, your avatar, your assets. There's another example here in terms of Shroud. He has a specific one. He may not use this today, but I know he used to use this. A specific one where it's dedicated for just chat. So he's got the chat up on the left-hand side. He's got himself there. He's got his brand all right there. And I love this chat kind of experience here because it's the average Twitch chat. Showing your brand in the chat itself. Again, I mentioned a little bit earlier of this doesn't represent just your respective chat. It can also be when you are in other streamers' chat rooms. Who are you? How do you represent yourself? Not just through whatever you might be typing, but I think more importantly, the actual assets that are tied to your channel name itself there. The brand itself, the emotes, etc. Cool. Badges. Badges are an awesome way to further solidify the logo that you're using or your brand itself. We say that badges are a key way how viewers will experience your brand on Twitch. Again, something eye-catching, something that is going to, in this case, you're seeing show progress, whether it's the various months, all the way to who is this individual, what kind of content do they create, and creating almost that curiosity or eagerness of, this is really cool. I want to check this person out. They're not live right now, but let's take a look at them. This is really cool. Emotes, you all know them, you all love them. It's a great way to express your brand again further here. You've got a couple examples. Wanted to show a variety of emotes. Tend to almost always be some kind of like avatar, or not necessarily your face itself, but you have some examples. In this case, Hassan, who in the has baited has him kind of laughing, right, chuckling there. And some of you might be using your actual face and likeness in real life photo as actual emotes here, but some of you might be doing avatars as well. And maybe it could make sense to do a combination of both. Maybe there are some moments that have happened on stream where it's so funny that you have to take your actual face in that moment and put it as an emote. And the rest of your emotes, or a lot of them, might be more of the avatar itself. And that's okay too. We're creating different types of emotes, giving your viewers and the individuals that sub your channel a chance to engage and further market out your brand. And I think something that's really cool, and especially that last line, anywhere on Twitch, this is a great way to crowdsource and have your biggest fans go and essentially do almost the brand marketing for you on other channels. Right. Anything you want to say?
No, it's all, I mean, like, I feel like badges and emotes, it's one of those things that now has become such a norm that I feel like some folks do overlook the importance of them, because they really do help your channel stand out outside of your streaming hours. Like, you know, take a look at those badges. Make it something that is not just key to your community, but also like it identifies you and what you do. You know, make them fun, make them engaging. Like I tell folks all the time, some of my favorite like chat badges are the ones where I like see something happening as I've been there longer and longer, which is really cool. But also with your emotes, don't be afraid to try something different. It's like, it's okay. I mean, how many low emotes can we have, right? I mean, everybody has one that's like, okay, we get it. But like, try something different, try something else. And just make sure that it's still you and not just doing it because it's popular. Because, I mean, yeah, we can all have a low emote, but like, if it's not good, why wouldn't I just use the other one, right?
Well said. Cool. Here's a couple more. I mentioned a little bit earlier that you might find some streamers don't actually use the same consistent type of image or profile image across every single social media or platform out there. And that's okay. You don't necessarily have to. You can use similar aesthetic related to your logo, kind of make sure the brand itself is consistent across all the platforms, but it doesn't have to be the same image, right? It could be something different based on that respective platform itself. And the last part is going to be presenting your brand to businesses. So we're going to dive into that here. Have any of you heard of a media kit outside of literally just now from this slide? Okay, a couple people. Cool, awesome. So it's a kind of a one-pager visual resume, as we like to call it, that tells a business partner how valuable your brand is. The most obvious example that comes to mind is more influencer marketing, where you may be trying to work with a brand to promote them on your stream. You know, like it could be, it's going to vary, of course, but it could be like Logitech, right? It could be a bigger brand, maybe more food related, like McDonald's or like Uber Eats, DoorDash, things like that, right? There's a lot of brands across the board here, and it's a great way to build out kind of a visual representation of who you are and why that brand would want to work with you. The benefit for them, really. So let's dive into this example that was kind of put together here, where you've got a couple sections. We'll run through them real quick. Contact info. How do they get a hold of you, right? You don't have to put your phone number, of course, but if it's a specific email that's dedicated for brands, so you may not be mixing it with emails that you might get from fans or anyone else. You're only sharing it with the brands, you're not posting it publicly.
Side note, put your email in your bio. You don't want to know how many times I've had folks who I've worked with that are influencer marketers who are like, I just need an easy way to contact them. Put your email in your bio. I encourage folks, put it in your Twitch bio. Because it also makes it really easy for folks to be in contact with you if they have an opportunity, if it fits your community. So that's just a quick tip.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, across the board, right? YouTube, you can put in the About panel as well, all over the place there. Brand identity, again, who you are. This could probably literally be your About section from Twitch. It could be a little bit different because you are putting a kind of visual representation that's geared for or has a target audience of businesses, so maybe you want to be a little bit different. Really just a quick sort of elevator pitch, again, 2 sentences, maybe 3 max, of your brand identity. Stats, obviously the biggest one that businesses or brands would want to have called out for them. Followers, subs, average viewers. Again, this might vary based on the brand that you're trying to pitch. And so I also encourage you, don't just make one type of media kit here or visual resume. Make a couple. Maybe it's broken out by specific genres. Maybe there's one that's more geared for food type of sponsors. Maybe one that's more geared towards conventional electronics or things like that as well.
Yeah, and also play to your strengths. If you have a specific platform that you use that is a stronger fit for a brand activation, lead with that. Because you know your community best. You know where they're most likely going to engage what you're doing the best. And that's what they want to see. So don't be afraid to show the rest of your stats, but lead with your strongest platform first.
Yep. And if it makes sense, maybe you have 2 or 3 specific platforms. You can fit them all. Right? I think you all are very creative. You're going to figure out as you create this sort of one pager what makes the most sense. You know? Last one's going to be the content info. I think that this is really just a great way for if someone's quickly looking over this visually, what are a couple key facts you want them to get and walk away from? Right, in this example, we say 5 days a week, you have past brand partnership experience, action, adventure, and FPS, right? What type of demographic in terms of the content that you're creating does it speak to? And as well as just chatting here. Something I've seen some people do is they actually put logos of past brands they work with near the bottom as well to add a bit more credibility of, hey, I'm not just someone who's never worked with a brand before. I have worked with at least one or two, if not more. These are the ones that I have worked with as well. And one more thing I'd actually encourage you to, and we have that example right there, Doritos, Cheeto at the bottom, but something you can also think about is whether you want to talk to other creators who maybe have created their own to give yourself an idea, not that you would copy it per se 100%, but more get an idea of how you want to create yours. Or you don't have to restrict yourself just to other creators. Ask brands out there if they have a quick one-pager of pitching that. It doesn't have to be a one-way street, right? There's going to be a lot of brands out there that there might be kind of everyday household names that you know about, but there'll be some brands that are just starting off and trying to grow their presence where a lot of people don't know about that. Mm-hmm. And so they may have their own kind of visual resume or one-pager that they're giving out to get, whether it's creators or whoever it might be, information about who they are, why that person should work with them, etc.
Yeah, and also just kind of another just a little quick tip when you're making your kit. So use the most up-to-date logo for the brands that you've worked with in the past. Because let me tell you, I've seen it before where someone's like, oh yeah, would you look over my kit before I send it off to this brand, and they're using a logo from, I don't know, 5 years ago, and now they've updated it. I'm like, that doesn't look good because it shows that you're not paying attention or you don't show a level of care when working with the brands that you want to work with. So just make sure you're putting your best foot forward when you're putting these together as well.
Cool. Take a look here. We put a couple larger, I'll say themes, if you will, or macro level themes here. Promotions, free stuff, sponsorships, casting. It's really just putting together an entire media kit and what are the different themes that resonate out there, right? You have stuff at the bottom with Doritos and G Fuel. It's showing sponsorships you've done. We have casting information in terms of 5 days a week, just chatting, etc. It's really just when you think about creating that media kit, what are the broad themes that you're trying to convey? So that when people walk away, they know about your brand, they know about who you are, and it's very easy for them to be able to associate some keywords with you and your channel and your brand ultimately. So, I wanted to make sure we saved a healthy amount of Q&A time. We have about 19 minutes. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer as many as we can. We have 2 mics just right here on both sides, so please don't be shy. Come on up. You are more than welcome to ask a question in French if that is a language you're more comfortable in. We'll have it translated for us. We'll also be outside afterwards if you have any additional questions. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for paying attention and listening to us. Come on, don't be shy.
Oh, I'm assuming no questions needed.
I won't be mean. I can't speak about Ray, but I won't be mean.
I mean, you're right. I'm not nice. So.
You should get Ray to show his channel.
No.
You needed to get him back.
Dang, right. I should have. I was supposed to put him on the spot. I want you to recite the Pokemon theme song.
I normally have lots of questions, so it's probably a good thing.
Thank you.
Hi.
So yeah, my question is, as somebody in the past only streamed on Twitch has problems using other platforms like for Instagram, not the confidence to post, or for Twitter, not like a boring life. How would you branch out more from Twitch? And when I come back to streaming, should I do that?
Yeah, good question. And just to make sure I understood it correctly, it's outside of Twitch.
Yeah.
How would you branch out on other platforms like Instagram?
I mean, I have them, but I really don't really use them. I want to get like more into that, the complete contemplation, just not just streaming.
Got it. So my immediate reaction is to just start, right? Go and just start doing it. You don't need to necessarily. Sometimes the best thing you can do is, if it's a new platform, instead of trying to plan as much as possible, just start trying things and have that initial data come in and have that initial reaction and response help feed into or help you better figure out what should you be doing there, right? I think when you think about content that's live versus content that you've created and are uploading somewhere else, the best thing you can do is to use both platforms or multiple platforms to cross-promote, right? So if you take, you're all probably using YouTube already, so I'm just going to take, let's say, Instagram as an example, right? Instagram, you can start it off as being an additional place where you upload reels or kind of shorter clips of your past thoughts to just start promoting there, right? And then tell people in your bio or profile page of tune in twitch.tv/Yoshamian, watch me live, and you can even kind of entice them, hey, if you missed me, here's a couple reels from my recent streams, right? That's sort of the pitch, and then you have them there, right? And you can even use it as an additional tool, for example, where y'all are probably using Discord and Twitter in terms of going live and letting your community members know. Instagram, you could post a quick story, it disappears in 24 hours, hey, I'm going live, tune in live now, And as you build out, in this case, Instagram, I forgot the exact number, but I think once you have 10,000 followers, they give you the ability to support swipe up redirects. So you could, users could swipe up and go straight to twitch.tv from there. Don't quote me on it. I think it's once you have 10,000 followers, they will build out support.
Whichever it is, it's a lot. Whichever, yeah. But also, real quick, make sure that when you're branching out on these other platforms that you're playing to that platform's strength as well. So don't just assume that what works on Instagram will work on Twitter or TikTok for that matter. So, for example, think about on TikTok, it's very fast. You want to make sure that people kind of, it's like, it's either informative or it's funny or shocking in some cases. And so you want to make sure you're editing your content to that format to make sure that it's attracting people in that space because that's what they're there for. I mean, same with Instagram. When I think of Instagram, I'm thinking, all right, I need a curated photo of something that relates to what I'm doing to direct them to what I want them to be seeing me do. Is something I would also include, use the example of Reels, which is also really important as well. So just make sure you are reading the room and catering to where you're posting your content.
Okay, yeah.
Alors, moi ça sera en français, désolé. Justement, comment pouvoir promouvoir sa marque également, qu'est-ce que vous conseilleriez quand justement on est petit streamer? Parce que, effectivement, se faire connaître quand on a 200 personnes de moyenne, et là je considère qu'on est moyen streamer déjà, mais on est déjà dans le haut du panier. Mais pour les plus petits streamers, comment arriver justement à faire découvrir sa marque? Parce que la plupart des sponsors, ils vont voir qu'on a une dizaine de personnes 10 personnes de moyenne, 20 personnes de moyenne, ils vont dire, est-ce que pour moi ça va réellement être intéressant? Comment justement arriver à mettre en avant, même quand on a vu déjà d'autres partenariats, qu'on a encore des partenaires déjà présents, comment arriver également à trouver d'autres qui sont peut-être un peu plus connus et nous faire également sortir de l'audio.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding is how can someone who is not necessarily a larger channel but has done some sponsor work attract new and bigger sponsoring brands that they can work with when it comes to putting together their kits. Is that sort of the gist of it?
Pouvoir après améliorer sa communauté et justement arriver à apporter quelque chose de différent et qui intéresse encore plus.
Gotcha. So yeah, how to drum up more interest when you've been doing this and you're like, okay, well now I want to do more. How do I build out that interest in my media kit, in my brand?
Okay, so you've already been working with brands. You want to work with more brands, larger brands? Got it. Okay. Good question. So these are a couple of my ideas. Ray, I'd love to hear yours as well. If you don't already have a media kit, definitely create that. It sounds like you may have a media kit already or something that you're pitching to brands. The other one, I think a lot of it is, I think of it like this, where if you don't ask, you'll never know. So if you don't ask, for example, brands you've worked with, hey, do you know people at other companies or these select companies? I'd love to be able to get an introduction. I'd love to work with them. Right? This is a amazing industry, but it's also a very small industry. A lot of people know each other, and so chances are, if they are working at, let's just say, Razor as an influencer marketer, they probably know a couple other influencer marketers at other companies, right? And so it's a great way to just ask. I know it might feel a little uncomfortable, but chances are you've built out, if you've been working with a specific brand for a while, you've built out some good rapport, they like you, they're continuing to sponsor you, right? And it's a good chance to just ask. Hey, so-and-so, I'm actually thinking about branching out, I'd love to try to meet more contacts. Do you happen to know anyone in these specific companies? Or maybe don't even restrict yourself to certain companies, just say, hey, could you introduce me to any folks that you might know? I think that's another big one there as well. Obviously, that's asking the individuals that work at brands. You could also ask their friends, other streamers. Maybe Dave might work with someone, right? I know it's not easy. It's not going to be you ask them, they introduce you, and you've got it, right? It's going to take time. But I want to go back to the theme of ask, right? Don't be afraid, just ask. The worst they could say is either don't know someone or they can't introduce you for whatever reason. And I think those are probably the biggest ones that come to mind. And probably the third one, especially we're in 2023 now, conventions and in-person events have become far more normal. And so go there. Don't just focus on if you can, if you have the time and the means to do it, don't just go to necessarily conventions that are just creator focused per se, but if you know of some conventions where other brands would be there, they may not be there to connect your network with creators, but it's a great way to meet someone at some of those companies and try to find someone internal, And this one just popped up in my head, the fourth one that I would say, because this is something that is very relevant as you're job hunting in general, but you can also translate the strategy for what you want to do in terms of connecting with other brands. Use LinkedIn. Do a search for, hey, Razor influencer marketer, right? And you might end up finding people that have that and kind of shoot them a cold message. I know a lot of times you may not really get a response, but really getting it out there, go with that kind of 30-second elevator pitch. Hey, I'm so-and-so, here's what I've done, I've worked with these companies. I would love to take an opportunity to have a quick phone call to talk more about what I'm looking to achieve and how I may be able to help you, right? Something like that. And I think it's a great way where you might actually find out you get a decent success rate there because you're also finding people that are in that position that you need to talk to at the specific brands or companies that you're trying to connect with.
Yeah, I mean, and all of that, like well said. And the way I'd like to break it down is to shoot your shot, but make sure that you are meeting them where they are, like Anish just brought up. Yeah, search for folks on LinkedIn. A prime example is I would go through Twitter and I would type in the search bar, company name, then you got influencer relations, community manager. And I look for those posts because more times than not, they're out there on these social media networks and they're asking for, hey, I have this project coming up. Are you a streamer that's interested in XYZ? And then get into those conversations with them there. Because they are looking and they would love to make sure they can connect with as many folks as possible. But as you said, this is a small space, but it's also a massive space at the same time. There are so many people. So as long as you're taking the initiative and not expecting it to come to you, I think you have a much more of a chance of being in those places because you're taking that initiative to make it happen.
Yes. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, I'm assuming that means that we have said everything perfectly. Okay, there we go.
Hi. I know you guys talked a little bit about like introducing new games and stuff to your brand and to your streams. And I just sort of like backed myself into a corner with where I am right now and what I've done because I've done a very specific thing with my streams. And I know that my viewers don't really want to watch anything else. So what would be the best way to go about introducing new things and trying something new with the hopes of it being actually successful?
Yeah, I mean, change is hard. Like, as people, change is difficult for us to accept just in general. So I can understand how that is challenging. It really is. What I would say is start small. You know, introduce little bits of change at first. But only amounts that you're comfortable with. But if you're being very cognizant and aware of your community, also just kind of pay attention to their reactions as well. Because trying to change something that's been really well received in the community for so long abruptly will just kind of be like shock for I'm not used to that. I don't like that. You know, so you just want to make sure you're kind of easing them into any sort of change that you get into. It's kind of my initial answer for that.
Yeah, I think kind of taking this a step further, going off that example, something you can also do based on your time and your scheduling in terms of how much you can dedicate to streaming. You can think of it as, from a content strategy standpoint, let me pick a day where I don't normally stream, and I'm going to start, let's just say it's Thursdays. I'm going to start doing 2 hours on Thursdays with this new content. And maybe most of my community won't tune in because I've seen that, to use your words, like back myself in a corner, or I'm really known for just this type of content. But I will let everyone know, hey, I'm I'm updating my schedule. I'm doing a new day with a small amount of time because I want to try out new content. I'd love to see you there, but you know, if you're not interested, totally get it. And I think it's a great chance to not overextend or not spend too much time on that, but being able to try something new, see can you bring in new community members and new people to your channel, see who or roughly what percentage of your existing community comes to watch you and support you. And that can also help feed in terms of getting some initial data to understand what is working and what's not. And then maybe it's starting off with kind of a dedicated day, short amount of time, right? And then from there, to Ray's point, maybe you start integrating that more into your regular streaming schedule, where you're seeing, sure, you don't have as much average viewership as you normally do, but it's not that far off, maybe 20-30% lower. So you'll start playing that game or doing that type of content on your normal regular streaming and breaking it up, right? That could be another way to actually apply that idea in a way that is, I'll call it low risk. You're not going to alienate your community, you're proactively telling them you're trying something new, you're only dedicating, let's say, 2 hours, give or take, to it, just to see what ends up happening. But I totally hear you about, if you get really well known for one specific thing, to the point that was made early, you've pigeonholed yourself, which is a bit difficult, but you can get out of that, right? Over time, you can definitely get there. It's just going to be a bit difficult, which I definitely acknowledge. But try something new in terms of, don't adjust or mess with your schedule as it is today, but do a bit of an additive with kind of a low risk in terms of trying something new there and seeing how it works.
Yeah, and another piece to that being said, there's so many platforms now where you can try and experiment with new forms of content in a different place and see if it works there, you know? And you're also gaining a different set of data, but then you're also not messing up with, you're not messing with your current flow of data, you know what I'm saying? So that way you can do something different over here, because you don't want to, if it ain't broke, don't mess with it over here. So you have places where you can experiment, and that won't really hinder or hurt whatever you're doing in your main day-to-day content creation. If you have time, because we all know that it takes a lot of time to do any of this stuff. So it's a good question. Thank you. All right, I think we have time for 2 more questions. If any of you guys have any more questions, or if you would like to hear Anish sing a song from the Backstreet Boys.
No. I said you have to sing, remember?
Well, I I said it first, so no. Cool.
Okay.
I think we're good. Well, hey, thank you all for being here. You're all
Thank you
wonderful.
very much.
Have a great con. Like I said, there's more. So.
Thank you.